Good morning, witches. Blessed Yuletide. Winter solstice blessings. We have arrived at the shortest day of light. So if you can, as you're hopping on the live, share the live, tap the heart button. And we're going to be talking today, Elle, about the winter solstice as a witch. Milo. Stop, okay. This is my big Australian Shepherd, bigger than average Australian Shepherd, Milo. Hi, Jenna. Good morning, Michelle. Good morning, Adristia. I hope I'm saying your name right. I haven't seen you in the coven lately, Jenna. What's been happening in your world? Good morning, Legend. Hi, David. Good morning, Pretty Rose, sorry. Are you feeling this darkest day, this winter solstice? Darkest day, shortest day? Oh, is it evening where you are? Winter, Pretty Rose. Hello, blessed be. Hi, Haley. You feel horrible today. That's actually very common. You're feeling down. Good morning, Jennifer. Good morning, Creative Art. I think I've seen Marjorie hop on, but I know she can't stay for long if she is here. Thank you for the rose. Everyone heart the live and share the live so we can get a few people on here before I start chatting, because I always end up having to repeat myself. I want to talk a bit today about winter solstice, about the energy that is happening on the planet right now. So we have one person that is feeling horrible. How's everyone else feeling? Dare I ask? Hi, Ash. Hi, Flower Power. Thank you, everyone, for hopping on the live. You're feeling energized. You've been seeing messages of the winter. Thank you, Ash. All right. So everyone's being a little shy. Becca's feeling optimistic. It's your cat's birthday. How sweet. Happy birthday, Puck. Hopefully one of my cats will come in. You guys know I have a new black cat named Salem. He's so sweet. We've been definitely going through it, integrating him with the other animals this week. This is not cosplay. I will block you if you are going to be rude. Happy solstice, blessed Yule. All right. Happy solstice, Haley. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about how I perceive the energy that's happening on the planet right now. So we just had a new moon in Sagittarius on Friday, right? And we're still being influenced right now from that new moon in Sagittarius. And it's going to influence this entire winter solstice portal, because not every winter solstice begins on the day of a new moon. And so winter solstice, otherwise known as Yule or Yuletide to us witches and most neo-pagans, is that so their solstice, the word solstice means sun stands still. And so the ancients could recognize, they actually followed the journey of the sun, and that's how they knew when to plant their crops, when to harvest their crops, when was the height of their crops, and when to clear the fields, when to compost to prepare for the colder months of the year, because they didn't have a calendar the way that we have a calendar. And so they would follow the journey of the sun through the year. And this is where we get the witch's wheel of the year that we follow and live by, because this is what the pagans lived by. And so solstice, meaning the sun stands still, it stands still at its lowest point at winter solstice. So it's always 3 days. So the sun gets lower and lower. If you guys have noticed, the nights have been getting longer. The sun rises later in the morning. It sets earlier in the evening. And it's giving us shorter and shorter days of light. And the exact opposite of that is happening in the southern hemisphere right now. So in the northern hemisphere, where I am in the US, our days are getting shorter and shorter. If you're in the southern hemisphere, say in Australia, your days are getting longer and longer because they are at summer solstice. So over in the southern hemisphere, the sun is standing still for 3 days at its highest point, giving them the longest days of light. Okay, now somebody's asking about spring solstice. There is no such thing as spring solstice. We have spring and fall equinox. Now, if you are a practicing witch or pagan or Wiccan, you would probably know some of these things. These are foundational aspects in witchcraft. So I apologize if you're witches that already know this, but I like to tell people about the actual meaning of these times, because there are a lot of witches that are still in the broom closet that may not know these things. A lot of witches that are still in Christian religion and afraid to fully come out to the other side because they haven't done enough research. And there are witches that have realized they're witches through TikTok and just started by doing spells. So it's important that you understand the wheel of the year. Now, we have winter and summer solstice, and there is no solstice at spring or fall, like someone was asking. There's equinoxes, and the equinoxes mean equal balance of light and dark. So we actually, at spring, the sun and the moon will be equal, or the day and night will be equal. But when we go into fall equinox, this is when there is equal day and light, but the moon takes her reign because the sun goes low, low, low. So the moon is holding the mantle of light from fall equinox to spring equinox. Then after spring equinox, the sun holds the mantle of light, and we work through the journey of ascension. So ascension goes from spring equinox to fall equinox. And right now at winter solstice, right, we're at this point where it's the lowest point the sun will go. So tomorrow morning, the sun will begin its journey back up. So every day, tomorrow on, the sun will be getting a little higher, making our days a little longer by a minute or so every single day. So we are still under the ruler, I call it the rulership, okay? I look at it as the moon still holds her mantle of light because the sun is still so low. And that mantle of light being held by the moon won't change until spring equinox. And I always say at the equinoxes, the two great lovers, the sun and the moon, meet once at each equinox. So they're only meeting twice a year in the sky. They kiss at equal heights, and then they begin their journey apart. So from fall to spring, we are working through the descent. We are working through embodiment. We are embodying everything that we ascended to from spring to fall equinox. Now, this morning, my husband and I were having this discussion about, he asked me, why would it behoove them to make everyone so busy this time of year? Because I was laying in bed this morning and I was actually telling him, I am so exhausted. You know, I feel like I have been trying to stop and slow down since Samhain. And it's like I might get a day here and there, but for the most part, I'm still going. And you know, the holidays and Christmas being here right now, like for all of us, keeps us out of what would actually be benefiting our journey the most. And when we're going and doing, we're rising, we're ascending, right? But if we stay in that space of ascension, we will never truly live the purpose that we came here to live, which is multifaceted, by the way. Like it's not just like you're doing one thing for your purpose. Your purpose is going to grow and expand through all facets of your life and become stronger and different every single year. Now, I believe that back hundreds and thousands of years ago, when patriarchy began to take rulership and any feminine, you know, back when God was a woman, that was slowly drifting away, right? And so as it drifted away, they needed to remove these times of power, right? And during the conversion of pagan Europe that spread across the entire planet, they realized that even though they were converting all these people, because people were like, well, I don't want to die, I don't want to be killed, so of course I'll convert, right? But they didn't want to let go of their holidays because everyone was pagan, because pagan just marks a period of time where they worshipped what we now call pagan ways, if that makes sense. So back then it was the only way of being, honoring the gods, plural, the goddesses, plural, honoring deities. And then the conversion of pagan Europe happened, and it was like, either you believe in God the Father and his Son Jesus Christ and that he is your Savior, or you will die. That is the truth of the Christian religion. It started with the Roman Catholic Church, and then it spread to all the different versions of that. So as what we call Christianity now. Then there, you know, Lutherans were born, Protestants were born, there were all types and forms of these religions. Well, the people in these religions were like, we want to celebrate these times that we used to celebrate, because the ancients, before the conversion of pagan Europe, during winter solstice, when the sun was standing still, the people would come and they would gather around the hearths, or they would gather around a big fire, a communal fire at this time. This was a time of rest. This was a time of turning inward, because the sun was at its lowest point. This is a time where the people labored with their shadow. Hi, baby. Hi. This is my baby, Salem. Come here. He's a big baby. Oh, I can't grab you that way. So the people would gather around these fires and they would tell stories. And actually, the stories oftentimes were told by the women. But through patriarchy, a lot of these rights or privileges that were taken by the high priestess, let's call them, because in every culture it was called something different, right? In the European areas, it was witch. In Siberia, it was shamanism. And if you were in Native America, it would be medicine woman. If you were in Peru, sorry, Salem, come here. If you were in Peru, it would be medicine woman. So there were different names for the same type of energy, or oracle, they would call you. Say hi, Salem. And so that I want to preface with that understanding of the witch was originally in all cultures. It's just they called it something different in each language. But through the conversion of pagan Europe and fear, the word witch, it was spread like wildfire. And it became somewhat of a pandemic. And that pandemic meant that people were unalived if they would not convert to the new structure of control. And so it's important that people who are practicing any religion understand that, Salem, understand that originally religion was birthed as a way to control the people. Jesus's message was not originally that I am your savior or any of the things that they've been telling you. I believe Jesus's message was the same message of the medicine people, of the witches, of the oracles. And, you know, the word witch is just becoming so misinterpreted that people think all people that were into herbalism were witches. No, everyone was into herbalism. It's the patriarchy, as time went on, medicine grew and it became a more westernized version, right? Which they had to get rid of things like the old ways, and they demonized plants through that. So it's not that if your great-great-grandmother was an herbalist that she necessarily was a witch. She might not have been. Everyone worked with herbs before the conversion of Europe. And I don't think the conversion really, it did have something to do with that, because I think anything that was feminine, like working with the earth, became demonized. But I just want to preface that, you know, there is a lot of confusion on who the witch is. And all the herbalists are yelling that we are witches, but just because you were accused of being a witch does not mean that you were actually a witch. You may have just been an herbalist. You know, and that was the thing. A lot of these people were converted and practicing Christians. Now, I do believe many witches went into the church and they just hid behind the church because they didn't want to be unalived, right? Hi, She-Wolf Tarot. Hi, Kelly. Marjorie's not on here today, so if you see anyone being hateful, I haven't noticed it myself, but can you be a moderator while you're on here, please? Anyway, so back to what we were talking about winter solstice and the wheel of the year, right? So this conversion of pagan Europe, it really marks a historic time. Thank you, Kelly. And during this time, there was a major shift from the old medicine, the old gods, to this new God that was one God rather than plural. And so the people that were converting were not wanting to let go of their practices and their celebrations. And so that's why during this conversion, they would have these councils of people come together and they would decide what was best for the people, right? And this is where they decided they were going to put the birth of Jesus, because they had already established that Jesus was going to be their savior. Now, one, making you have a savior took power out of the people's hands, because you need to be enough for that savior to accept you, right? For God to accept you on the other side. They made hell, which was originally a goddess, they made it a place. And if you were not good enough, or you did anything wrong, you would go to that place. So through fear, they controlled you. Now, the people not wanting to give up their celebrations, well, all the gods of old that had anything to do with the return of the sun were said to be born at the winter solstice, because this is pagan mythology, and all the pagans followed the wheel of the year. So their sun that was born, it was all mythology, S-U-N, right? What people in modern days don't understand is that the same as the pagans' mythology is not all 100% accurate or true on what the stories that were happening because they used storytelling to teach the people, right? So what people don't understand about the Bible now is that they compiled all this wisdom from the libraries of Alexandria, and they manipulated it the way they needed to control the people in their particular religion. So they put Jesus's birthday at December 25th, a few days after the winter solstice. So it's not connected to what the pagans or the witches are celebrating. It's on the 25th now, when everybody knows if the story of Jesus is anywhere close to being accurate in the Bible, that puts Jesus being born probably in the summer sometime or late spring. So they didn't care really when he was born. They just had to make his birthday close enough to when the old ways were practiced, so the people felt happy that they were getting to celebrate something, right? So because the people were getting to celebrate something, then they were happy. So in these councils, they're called the Council of Nicaea, the people decided, these leaders, these male leaders decided, this is what's best for the church, the Roman Catholic Church, and the other churches that ended up stemming off there took that too. That's why. So really, Christmas has nothing to do. Christmas is not pagan. Yule and winter solstice is pagan. Christmas was created by the church because the people wanted to celebrate something this time of year. If you want to understand how that would feel, it feels the same as being a witch today and wanting to celebrate Yule on winter solstice, which is today, by the way. But knowing that to have work off here in the US, you have to celebrate Yuletide on the 25th and on the eve of the 25th, on the eve of the 24th, because that is when our country, because it is founded on Christian concepts, that is when our country says we're allowed to celebrate. So even if you're a witch, you're kind of forced to celebrate Yuletide twice. You can be celebrating it all you want today, and I do. I gather with my virtual coven, and I actually honor all 3 days of this portal very consciously, because really this is the beginning of the wheel of the year. This is when we begin the journey with the sun, because every day from here on out, the sun gets a little higher in the sky. So we as witches pretty much are celebrating Yuletide on Yuletide, but then we are celebrating also Yuletide on Christmas, because that's the day we get off work, right? Because we are living in a country, most of us who are on here from the US, and even in other countries, we have no other choice, right? That's just the way our country was set up. You know, it's like my son got pinned as a firefighter this week. I'm so proud of him. He really wanted to have that happen. And it's really hard in our little town to not be Christian. Like, he always ends up with friends that are Christian and girlfriends that are Christian. And now in the fire department, which is highly led by Christian concepts. So we go to this dinner and they have all the families there to show us what they did, and they pray. They pray at 4th of July, they pray at this dinner, the firemen do, and they pray and they always say, we're so thankful, Lord, that we have the freedom to practice as we do. Okay, so that is just assuming. Everyone in our country assumes everyone else is Christian. And so here are my daughters and myself and my husband with our eyes open. My son has that tendency to, like, he falls in line, and because the fire department is Christian and his girlfriend's a Christian, like, okay, you're supposed to close your eyes and pray, I'll close my eyes and pray, right? He considers that respectful, and I get that, but I will not do that. I will not fall in line. I have been there in the past where, oh yeah, I know how to pray, I know how to make myself fit in. I don't want to fit in with these people anymore. I haven't for a long time. And as my daughters do the same. So when they're praying, we don't close our eyes or bow our head. We're just sitting there looking around. noticing how interesting it is that they are just assuming that everyone is Christian. It doesn't even cross their mind that the freedom of religion means you can be something other than Christian. And the people that come and spread hate on my page they're so entitled and expectant that everyone is Christian. They think by putting their scripture in my feed that it's going to change my mind when I don't believe in your mythology. Because times like this, at winter solstice, I am fully present with what is happening on our planet right now. So back to why would it behoove them when all this was changing during the conversion? Why would it behoove them to make everyone be partying and celebrating Christmas rather than doing exactly what the Yuletide traditions were? It's because the moon held the mantle of light, and they know from fall equinox to spring equinox, that entire 6-month period is ruled by the moon. The veils are thin during this entire portal. The veils are, I know a lot of people say Samhain, the veils are the thinnest. Right now, tonight, we are at the darkest day, the lowest point of light. Today is the day where the veils are the thinnest. So when they were wiping out the feminine rulership and demonizing things like witchcraft and intuition and divinatory practices, it behooved them to make you, instead of sitting by the hearth telling stories, instead of sitting by the fire and working with the energy of the flame and releasing shadow, we had to be out drinking and partying. So we were not accessing that point in the year when the veils were actually the thinnest, the point where we can access our ancestors the most, where we can access the truth from beyond the veils of this earth dimension, were the thinnest. And so they wanted us to be out partying so we would miss that opportunity. That's why our celebrations are slightly different than the actual alignment of these potent, powerful days. You know, for example, a lot of astrologers are saying like the Lion's Gate is not a thing. I still believe the Lion's Gate is a thing just because the Nile rivers no longer flood on that day. And it's not on it's not the 8-8 portal. It's not on the 8th every day. But I do believe there is a perfect alignment between Sirius, the spiritual son of our sun, and the sun, which nourishes the earth. And so by placing the Lion's Gate on 8-8, we're actually missing the perfect alignment of Sirius and the sun, if that makes sense. So, hi Salem. And so just like at winter solstice, the family doesn't gather and rest until after the alignment has passed. And these 3 days from Friday, which just happened this year to be a new moon, that was the beginning of the sun standing still. Last night was Mother Night. Mother Night was seen to be the night the mother labored with her child. So in modern days, we look at that like the mother was laboring in mythology with her son, not S-O-N, but S-U-N, rebirthing light to the earth, right? So you can see how them putting Jesus's birthday here made it like the light was reborn on the earth because this man was going to save us. For myself, I was raised in a church. I was always questioning why someone else had to die so that I could live. It didn't make sense. And it still doesn't make sense. And it boggles my mind that the most intelligent people that are intelligent in so many ways have not realized that they are being controlled by a narrative that was born how many thousands of years ago. And it only hit the peak of the turning point during the conversion and during the burning times. And then you can see the closer we got to the age of Aquarius, the more people were waking up to the fact that religion and government were intertwined in every single area of this planet, and it was to control the people. And controlling the people has never been the way of the feminine. But to the point where, you know, we've as women have had to fight to get to where we are at today on this planet, being able to buy a house, being able to have a credit card, have a bank account. Our grandmothers had to be masculine. They had to, you know, get their pants on rather than their dress and go fight these men to be able to take their power back. And now we find ourselves here today. And it's like, wow, like, what are we trying to do here? We've got all the women being so masculine, but simultaneously trying to teach feminism, and the two are not working together. There is so much illusion out there. Now, that illusion has been being exposed since 2020. Every single year, more of the illusion has been being exposed. And the rise of the witch, you know, they can say historically, the rise of the witch was when the control of the people happened. And it's like, okay, that only happened once that we remember. So now we have it happening twice. They're trying to control us, and more people are coming out of the broom closet. And I'm happy about that. It's great. Like, I am happy about that. But the actual archetype of the witch, the power in that is getting lost. And the foundation of the craft by most people that consider themselves witches don't even know. That's why someone on here was asking, what about spring solstice? There is no spring solstice. It's equinox at the solstice. And any witch that is eating, breathing, sleeping, living the craft, it knows that, because these days are sacred. And even though I've been so busy, like most of you have been so busy, because that's the way our world was set up, to the point where even if you're attempting to slow down, which I have been attempting, believe me, I have been attempting to slow my butt down, it's almost impossible. I can't control. My son's graduation was 2 days before the start of the winter solstice, the new moon. So on Friday, that when the sun stood still, it was on the day that the new moon in Sagittarius began. Now, let's talk about the new moon in Sagittarius, because there's a lot of potent energy on that new moon being in Sagittarius rather than Capricorn at the end of the year. And the opportunity, what that's giving us here by having that new moon there, is this new moon is simultaneously giving you more potent energy around release and new beginnings. Now, we also have astrological influences there that I won't get into, that are propelling us. They are like getting us ready. It's like we're filling our womb, if you're a woman, or if you were born a man, you have a hora, and we're filling those creative portals, or cauldrons in our body, with seeds of potential. Now, the more we release that does not align with us from our past, from the year prior, the more we will be able to propel ourselves forward. So if you think of Sagittarius as the archer, right? And the glyph for Sagittarius is actually an archer. It's a bow and arrow, right? And that's because of what Sagittarius represents. What that astrological sign represents is the ability to remain grounded and centered in the present moment, understanding as that bow is pulled back. It's pulled back and the arrow is pointed at the target, right? So it means the past is what brought you to the present and into the future, but the present moment is fleeting. The present moment is gone. Every time I say something, it is now the past. So the past is always influencing your future. So we walk with or shoot forward towards that bullseye, that target that the arrow is aiming to hit, by walking with or shooting with the teachings, what we learned from our past. Right? We're not moving forward anchored down or weighed down by the past trauma. We don't revisit the past trauma to bring it into the future. We revisit the past trauma to bring peace to those areas. We talk about them to release the energy from us, to begin to process in our mind, because our mind is full of file cabinets. And depending on what you've experienced gets filed into all these different files. All the traumas are right there in the unprocessed file. And so all the energy of your life, experience of your life, is trying to get those past traumas to be resolved. I hope I'm making sense here. And so all the energy, if you are living in the past, all the energy of your unconscious mind, if you've done no shadow work, is gonna bring you more experiences to heal that. That means the energetic friendships, work relationships, home relationships, family relationships are in some way, shape, or form going to be your past trauma dressed in drag, because the trauma has to come back in a different form for you to have the opportunity to change it, to do it different this time, to make boundaries with family you have never made boundaries with. And by doing this, so this new moon in Sagittarius, by really focusing on, I am going to take these steps to release this. I'm not just going to write it on a paper and throw it in the fire. I am actually writing that on a paper and recognizing that if I no longer want to be an alcoholic, I have to quit drinking beer. If I am a narcissist playing the victim, I have to admit that I am a narcissist and stop playing the victim. Does that make sense? This is why we need to resolve the past during this time. Right now, from Samhain to Yule is this time of shadow diving. We are diving in, we are realizing what needs to change. We are making resolve to make the active change. We move our body to move that energy out of us. So when we are doing our spell work or energy work or weaving magic work, and we're working with the fire, there doesn't need to be any paper. I don't need to draw any sigils. Last night I sat out by my candles lit, drawing the flames up. I have a video of this right now. I was moving the flames up. When the fire went up with my hands, that was my wishes and dreams being brought up and out onto the planet. When I brought my hands down, you'll notice, because I weave and work with the fire a lot, the flame actually dissipates and goes down. And that's because I work with the energy of fire a lot. Fire used to really scare me. I still very much respect it, but I work with it consciously. And so when the flame went down, it was releasing, letting go, returning it to the earth to be recycled. And then when I would lift my hands, I would draw the energy of my wishes and dreams up. That's what you're witnessing in that last video that I posted. Now on Friday, on the new moon, it is my tradition every year. I used to work with a Native American mentor, who's a witch, by the way. She knows she's a witch, but she also by bloodline is Native American. And so I've been invited and brought into many of her ceremonies, initiated into many of the teachings there, although they are not what I teach. A lot of my power and connection came from her teachings, and I worked with her actively for many years. And so now that I'm no longer working with her actively in that way, I still like to go out and see her. So my tradition has been that my husband and I go out for winter solstice, And because she holds a ceremony on every equinox and solstice, so winter solstice, I always go to her house. She holds a ceremony on all 3 days of the portal, and all we do is make medicine bags. I'll show you guys what I made this year. And of course, she's Native American, so her bags are, she makes these out of deer skin, from, deer skin she gets from Native America, or from here in Arizona on the reservation. And we make these medicine bags that are going to carry us forward, carry our wishes, our dreams forward into the next year. So that's how I start my solstice every year. She makes a beautiful altar, and she speaks in her native tongue, and invites in the different directions and the elements, and it's really beautiful. Actually, I have sitting here this is one we made last year. I think it was last year or the year before. So every year I go and do this. I have one year where the bag was white. I don't know where it is. Anyway, this is my tradition every year, is to sit with her in ceremony, because it feels like it fills my soul, because I am gathering. My cat just took that. I don't know if you guys could see that. It allows me to move into that place of student for an evening, where most of the time I'm playing the role of high priestess. So that's what I do the first night of solstice. The second night is mother night, and so I'm always releasing shadow, working with shadow aspects, making decisions that I will be making change in my life, and laboring with the shadow, the way a mother would labor in birth with a child. And then on winter solstice today, like, I have my virtual coven, so we meet through Zoom and we make a Yule log together. And so I am actively honoring all 3 of those days. Now, that being said, the week has been crazy, because 2 nights were taken by my son and him being initiated into the fire department. I work 1 day a week at a salon, and I had to work late that night. It's just like busy, right? And I feel like everyone right now who's busy, if you were doing what you were doing and it was June, you would probably feel fine, right? But you don't, because we are coming to this point in the wheel of the year. And as the sun gets lower and the days get shorter, we are invited into rest. Our bodies are trying to sink into that rhythm and flow of the natural world, and we are working against it because it's just the way the world works, right? So it being a dark moon and also being winter solstice is why everyone is feeling so tired. It's because we are supposed to be tired. We're supposed to be sitting around the hearth in the evenings, in the dark nights, and gathering with our friends and family and telling stories that teach us about how to live in the world in a good way. How do you slow down? That's a great question, because we were talking about that. I have a lash in my eye or something. Hang on 1 second. Okay, so how do you actually slow down? That's what we were talking about in the beginning. It's almost impossible to slow down this time of year because of the world that we live in, especially here in the US. I know different areas have different things going on, or if you're in the southern hemisphere, it's you're at summer solstice, not winter solstice. But slowing down can be difficult because we as pagans or witches are trying to celebrate the solstice on the solstice by slowing down and honoring and shadow work. But the rest of the world, everybody is, more people than not, are Christian. So they're partying and everything because that was set in place to keep us from accessing the potent energy of the spirit world that is available right now. And so the only way that we can slow down, hi Tara, is by actually having some sort of rebellion and saying, I'm not going to any parties this year. This year I've told my kids we're starting Christmas late. We're all adults. We have no little kids in our family right now. Everybody's going to come over at 10 or 10:30. We're not doing this at 7 in the morning. Like, this is the time of year we are supposed to be slowing down, and I have not had an opportunity to slow down. So making decisions like this for yourself, like, I really want to go to that party, but more than I want to go to that party, I want to sit in ceremony by myself outside of my house in the freezing cold and release my shadow tonight because it's winter solstice. So that's slowing down. It's taking time to journal, to get off your phone, to have a cup of tea and meditate and connect to plants. And that's the thing, is there's no time for that. Because the world has filled us with all of these to-do lists during this time of year. But really, our bodies are wanting us to slow down. And that's why you're so much more tired right now than you would be if you were doing the exact same schedule, but in June. Because in June, the sun is at its highest point. And so the sun is actually pouring down more energy, giving us more vital energy, more vital life force to be able to do more. Because in the summer, we need to work the fields to provide food. So we're actually going completely against the grain by not slowing down. It's actually laughable, and not to offend you or anything, but that we as humans have to ask, how do I slow down? What does that even mean? That just tells me that we are all so programmed that we think slowing down is scrolling through our phone. That is keeping your mind so busy that your intuition, that your creative, critical thinking abilities are going down, 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 down. So tonight, when it gets dark, light a candle, get a cup of tea, sit down and close your eyes and take a few breaths. Most people can't sit with themselves for even a few minutes in silence, just sipping a cup of tea. They have to have the TV on or their phone on. Most people are so disconnected, they can't even read a book. They only can listen to a book. So your act of rebellion is you deciding to slow down, to do the hard thing, to get comfortable with the uncomfortable, because it's only uncomfortable because you were programmed this way. Eventually, slowing down, the more you live by the wheel of the year, the tireder you're going to be during this time of year, because you are actively working against something that is very conscious to you and very unconscious to other people. And I think that's why right now, when I was laying in bed this morning, I was like, I just cannot do this one more day. It has to slow down. And at the end of the week, we have to go see my husband's kids in California. And it's like, I am going to be worthless because I have not had time to slow down. And he's like, and I'm like, that's why they do this to us. And my husband's like, why would it behoove them to do this? Well, I just shared everything why I told him, because they don't want us connecting to the energy right now. The way the world is working right now, we have so many people so disconnected that even people who have spiritual gifts are disempowering themselves by not honoring what their body is encouraging them to do. They are not doing the shadow work. So they're going around like this victim to their spiritual abilities. And it's like, that's only because you're not living 100% authentically. Because I can tell you from experience, I am highly, highly sensitive, and I can sit in circle with as many people as I can sit in circle with, and they can all pour out their trauma and it will never drain me. I can be exhausted this morning laying in bed, and I can come on TikTok and revitalize myself by sharing spiritual information because I am empowered by my spiritual abilities and not disempowered by them. You know, I seen this thing this week about people are using therapy talk in replacement of therapy. It's like, you're an idiot if you're out there just saying this is your trigger and you're not doing anything about it. You're just using the therapy talk you've seen on TikTok as an excuse to not act in integrity and take care of the trigger. Once you're aware of that trigger, you start working with that trigger differently. When you know you are highly sensitive, you heal your traumas so that when you get around other people with traumas, you can go toe to toe with their demons, and it's not going to lower your ability to divine, to heal, to be a medium, to be a psychic, to be anything. Because you have worked on your triggers so much that those same demons, we'll call them demons, even though I don't believe they're actual demons, but their inner demons are not going to trigger your inner demons. The reason you cannot sit or be around people that are pouring their trauma out on you is because you are absorbing it, and it's triggering all your wounds that you have yet to heal. Yes, this is the way that it works. So if people come to me and they tell me they're so spiritual gifted that they cannot be in this room with all these other people, or they can't do the spell with all these other people in the room because it influences their work, it's like, okay, that just is telling me you're not as evolved as you thought you were. Doesn't mean anything good or bad to me. It's just, oh, this is where you're at, right? Not that I'm judging you. It's just that this is where you're at. And it behooves us, like shadow work means admitting these things. You know, at a certain point, I had to admit to myself, like, I am victimizing myself because of my empathic abilities, because I have not done the amount of shadow work I need to do. And honestly, that completely lifted when I created boundaries with my family. Completely shifted from being disempowered and having to be alone and having to protect myself from everyone else's energy. It's like the protection happens naturally. You aren't afraid of those demons when you've met them yourself. You go toe to toe with other people's demons, no matter what that demon is, because you know it's just energetic inauthenticity. And I'm not saying that anybody is less than for not having done enough shadow work. I'm saying this to get you to understand there is no shame in saying I am doing my shadow work right now. Right now, I can't be around other people. You know, 3 years ago when my grandmother passed, there was a 3-month period where I could not take on anybody else's stuff. I could not go toe to toe with anybody. My grief wound was triggered so hardcore that I needed that solid 3-month window to let myself come back to neutral. Even though I am playing the role of high priestess, even though I know the amount of work I've done, that just means to me that I am held accountable to myself, because I know when I realized I was taking on other people's stuff. Somebody actually online tried to curse me, and that's when the light bulb went off, because I could feel it. And it came into me in a dream, and then I checked on it and it was accurate. And I was like, the only reason this can happen right now is because my wounds have been triggered from going into a church where traumatic things happen to me. It doesn't matter if I'm a high priestess. It doesn't matter if I lead retreats. All that means is that I am held to the higher standard that I have set for myself to turn off the outside world and to take care of me. Because the deepest, darkest wounds that are in us, you will never just go there and visit them with a therapist or a coach or a healer once and be done with them. They will return in different shapes and forms when you are ready to release another layer. And so to me, when someone is saying that they can't do these certain things, or why can't I, or I can't be around this or that, that just means you need more shadow work. It doesn't mean you need need to carry around a selenite wand with you to continue clearing yourself. Exactly, Kelly. It's like an onion. Another layer is coming back to be healed. My grandmother's passing was a gift to me because it allowed me to go back into a trauma and sit with the child that was in me, the child that is in us, all of us. We each have all these children inside of us, every age we've been, and all the things that happened in their life, the joys, the traumas, all of it, the creative genius within us. But the thing is, when those traumas come back, that inner child in you is what the trigger is. It's the child in you. It was the child in me that was 5 years old that was like, help me, help me. And it was triggered by my grandmother's passing. But all that meant from me was no matter what I was doing during that time, I had to put up extra shields, extra barriers around me, carry extra crystals, and do the shadow work. Because if I didn't do both, I would still be in that same place, disempowered by my wounds. But because I was willing to go there, it was a 3-month period, and then I got my feet under me and I was back again. And that's how it works for all of us. You have to meet yourself where you are at every single day, regardless of what the world is telling you. So if you have a party to do and you are working through grief or you are working through some trigger right now, don't go to the party. I don't care if your family tells you that you're a hag and you don't like anyone because you didn't go to the party. If you had a family that truly cared about you, they would understand that you were working through something and you needed this time to rest. And so that's, this all stems from the question of how do I even rest? What does that even mean? I can tell you 99% of the people out there, even spiritual people, maybe I'll say 90%, have not done enough shadow work, enough therapy, enough healing, enough that they even know how to do this or that they can even realize it. Because most of us that have these incredible healing abilities, the healing abilities are not exactly what they could be if you were healed. So there are many of us on this planet right now that came here with these huge abilities, and yet they're using TikTok therapy to disempower themselves. It gives them the therapy speak or the spiritual speak to identify words. Yeah, somebody's saying something about Reiki. Like one of my husband's coworkers said his wife got into Reiki and that was it. They had to get divorced. And it's just so interesting, the things that are happening on our planet, right? Obviously, if they got divorced, they were meant to get divorced. But, my husband and I, when I outgrew him, we'll say it that way, we did split, and then we went through therapy, and we continued to go through therapy because I was unwilling to take a different path once I became aware of who I was, what I was capable of, and why I was not living to my potential. I was just walking around a really powerful yoga teacher that could channel. But I probably was triggering a lot of people because my channel was wide open, but I hadn't completely, fully embodied everything I have now. I hadn't healed everything in myself that I needed to heal. So that's why, in a lot of my courses, they are highly, highly rooted in healing. Because even those of us that are spiritual teachers, high priestesses, coaches, and healers, we need healing as much as everyone else. You cannot, as a witch, connect to the elements if you have not done your shadow work. The ability to work with the fire, meant I had to go in me and work with the missing element in my chart, which was earth. I have really strong fire in my chart. I have Mars and Aries in the 6th house, but I also have Chiron there. So I have a wound there. And for me, I always feared that fire. So you would never have known that I had Mars and Aries because I was so repressing my fire. I was even afraid of fire. This Native American witch I tell you about, that was my mentor, she taught me to honor the fire, not to fear the fire, to respect the fire. Not meaning like I'm the grand witch of the fire and I tell the fire what to do. No, I am weaving with that fire. I must respect the fire. And so I work actually with other witches who are like, I'm not afraid of the fire. I know how to work with this fire. And I'm like, you do know how to work with the fire, but you have yet to weave with the fire. Because when you weave with the fire will respond to your command. So that video I was telling you I posted last night where I was raising my hands, I have another one I did last winter too. That was one of my practices, was working with the fire. And then I realized like the fire would respond to me commanding the fire to go up, 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 up with my hands. But I have to be solely focused. You know, my husband came out and was videoing me, and it became harder for me to focus and get that fire to go up and down because I knew he was walking around me. And so for me to keep solely focused on that, I had to really hone in on my powers. Energy weaving, elemental weaving. It's all magic is that witches work with. Every spell jar, every spell is a form of weaving magic. You're weaving with the elements. That's why I say, like, people put all these spells on TikTok and it's like, why aren't my spells working? Probably, you know, there's many reasons. I've seen a witch recently who I respect and stuff, and he's like, if you put your spells on TikTok, they're not gonna happen because you have them time looping or something like that. And cool, like, I get where you're coming from. I don't 100% agree, but cool, because I love to support other witches and their theories and the way things work for them. Hi Tanika, thank you for the gifts. Everybody like the live, please, and thank you for the gifts and the hearts. But my thing is that I believe the spells aren't happening because they aren't actually living the craft. They're not honoring the foundation of the wheel of the year. And they're not communing or connecting with every element. Thank you, Jenna. Every element needs you to spend time with it to be able to fully connect with it. And that's something that I learned from my Native American witch mentor that I worked with for so long. Was she made me sit with the fire every day for a month, and then she made me go back to the fire when my grandmother died. She's like, you know the fire, go back to the fire, you lost your fire again. So for me, like, my wound always takes me to repressing my fire. The leader, the teacher, the high priestess in me kind of is like, whoa, I kind of go back in myself. And so, you know, we all should become aware, if we're practicing witches, what our missing element is and where our shadow element is. So my shadow always tends to go to the fire. And that's because of the wounds that I have as a child. So the missing element was something, once I communed with earth, I actually realized that was a strength for me. Once I communed with the earth, my powers became so heightened, like tea leaf reading, understanding of astrology. When I make a spell jar, what happens? Any spells I do became heightened once I was aware of that missing element. Once I did the womb healing, then I realized I could manifest like amazing. And so that's why my courses, like the Way of the Witch, is full. It's like woven, interwoven healing practices, going deep into your own shadow, because everything that is released creates space for more. Yes, like muscles have memory, because the actual energy of the event, of the trauma, It becomes trauma because it's stored in your body as energy. Oftentimes, yes, in the muscles. So I have a lot of healing work, and the way that I help people discover it is through astrology, because a lot of people will come to me and say, I have no wounds. And it's like, okay, I as a teacher teaching a witch school need to get you to some of these wounds and open that door the quickest way I can. I am not a therapist. I don't have time as a coach to sit with every person that takes my online course and dig up what's there by learning about their past. So I guide them there because it's written in the stars what's going to happen to us when we come here. All energetic possibility is written in our astrology chart. And the reason that is because when we are on the other side, we've lived many other lives. We chose this life for a specific reason. And so we have all those particular astrological alignments when we are born placed a certain way so that all these potential experiences could happen to us. You know, I wrote it in my story that I would have all this childhood trauma. Why? Because then I would have the opportunity to help all these other people and myself be the pattern breakers of their family line, because until everyone starts healing on this planet, we will never get out of this patriarchal trap that we are in. People talk about the matrix. What is the matrix? The matrix is the patriarchal trap that we are living in, and you cannot get out of something. You can't get rid of the weeds by chopping them down. You can't get rid of the weeds by chopping the weed down and telling a freaking chamomile plant that it's a mugwort. You can't tell a cactus it's an oak tree. You can't do that. You can't chop it down and say we changed the rules and now a cactus is an oak tree. It doesn't work that way. So we have to uproot the weed to get it to not grow. We have to kill the roots. And the roots are religion and government. That does not mean I hate everybody that works for the government. It does not mean I hate everyone that's Christian. I have many friends that are Christian. My son is dating a Christian girl. I have many people in my family that are Christian. What it means is I understand that they have yet to see through the illusion that they are living. Okay, that's what it is. I'm not judging myself better than you and you worse than me. It just is what it is to me, because I see this planet from a different lens than most people see, even most spiritual teachers. So, you know, back to the earth element and the fire element missing in me, because I was so looked at as not smart and not this and not that. When I became an adult, I realized I had to come out of my shell and speak when I didn't want to speak. I had to, you know, realize that actually I am smarter than I ever thought I was. You know, I always tell people I'm not the smartest person out there. I didn't graduate high school. I might not be great. I've got to use chat or Grammarly to edit all my emails because I'm terrible with grammar, with spelling, with punctuation. But I realized one day I was holding myself back by saying I wasn't the smartest person out there, because I'm smarter than the average person. I may not have all the book smarts that you have from going to school, but I can see through the veils of illusion that are on this planet. So they wanted to keep me silenced because I was the exposer. Is that a word? Exposer? Yeah. Of shadow, exposer of shadow in my family. So they wanted me to shut up. And I'm still the exposer of shadow in my family. That's why I haven't talked to my mom, dad, and one of my sisters in 4.5 years. Is because I am not willing to be a part of the game of making everyone outside of our family think that we are perfect. Because my family, in our entire dynamic of other families around us, like everybody thinks because, you know, this aunt has children that are drug addicts and this aunt has this and this uncle has that. And it's like, oh, but this family, meaning my mom and dad and their kids, are perfect. No, we are the most toxic out of all of them. Because our mom makes us stand up and put on a mirror, a freaking mask, not a mirror, and pretend we're something we're not. And that's what the entire world is doing. That's what religion teaches us to do. That's what patriarchy teaches us to do. It stops us from living our truth. It makes us be the wolves in sheep's clothing. So, on this winter solstice, authenticity, integrity, acceptance. You know, the wisdom of winter solstice is the wisdom of the seed, because the seed is buried deep in the earth right now. It is being nurtured by everything we're feeding that seed. And again, going back to that analogy I used earlier, like a mugwort plant is not going to grow into a cactus because we cut it down and give it new rules to grow by. That's not how it works. You've got to uproot it and create something different. So acceptance of, if you're an oak tree, you're an oak tree. Whether your family's told you you're a tiny little dandelion or you're a big oak tree and you're actually an oak tree, they can try to keep you small by telling you you're a dandelion, but you will never be anything but an oak tree. They may stunt your growth until you realize who you are, but you're always going to grow into an oak tree if you're an oak tree. Does that make sense? So usually on Sundays, I do a circle casting, and we are over 100K hearts. Thank you guys. If anybody wants to do a circle casting, tell me in the chat you want to cast a circle, and maybe we'll do that before I get off. Usually we start that at 11:30. Casting a circle looks like a guided meditation. Oh, hi, Erin. I didn't know you were here. And Tanika, yes, please. Okay, so this looks like a guided meditation, and it's a casting of a circle. I'm not going to be setting out candles and, things to represent each area. And it's not where I'm using a completely scripted, like, calling in of the different directions. This is a circle of empowerment and protection, and it's energetic, meaning that if you type in the chat or say out loud, yes, thank you, I accept, I receive, that by being present as I cast this circle, it will be casting a circle around you, each of us individually, but we're doing it collectively together. And I am calling in or casting that circle in a way that when you go to sleep tonight, the circle will open, but it won't be broken. And that is because it allows for the week ahead, for the wisdom that came in during this period of being in the higher planes of consciousness, that it will integrate fully into your body. Now, I do this by calling in a deity in each direction, or ascended master. And so these deities are archetype images that some of them have lived on the earth, some of them may not have, or they may be rooted in other deities' stories or people's stories. It doesn't matter. We're calling that energy around that deity, no matter how you look at them. We're calling that energy of that deity in each direction. So you're going to have 8 directions, an entire circle of 8 deities surrounding you, pouring in the wisdom that exists within them, that actually exists within you, that you have not fully embodied yet, or maybe you have embodied some of it. But it's going to also lift you up to the 7th and 8th plane of consciousness, where you are in this different level of seeing things. So on this winter solstice day, this will behoove you to be a part of it, because it's going to allow all the events for the rest of the day to hit different. It's like you can experience the same lesson again and again with people. Like, I had toxic women coming into my life again and again, and it was like all of a sudden one day it hit different. And it was like, oh, I'm done with this. I'm going to trust the universe and walk away from this job today because I'm done being treated like this. And everybody was like, what the heck just happened? That is the power of something hitting different. And so by moving yourself into a different level of consciousness, you're allowing for any experiences that come in today to hit different, and then throughout the week assist you in integrating that. So when you go to sleep tonight, the circle will be open, but it won't be broken. So if you want to be a part of this, type in the chat, yes, thank you, I accept, I receive. Get yourself in a position where your legs are not crossed, your arms are not crossed. So if your arms are crossed, your ankles are crossed, your hands are crossed, this is energetically blocking yourself from the energy I'm putting out into the world. So if you just want to, thank you, Erin. If you just want to be witness to this and just watch, then you can watch. Don't say yes, yes, thank you, I accept, I receive. If you're worried about absorbing the energy of me casting the circle, you can just cross your arms. That'll protect your energy field from what I'm doing. You are welcome to just watch, or you're welcome to take part in it. It's just you have to state something out loud or in the chat to let your energetic field know you're open to receiving this circle of empowerment and protection around you. So find a place to lie down or sit up so that from sit bones to crown, you are nice and tall. This keeps this field open so that the energy is clearing all around you and this circle can rise around you. So find a space to do that in where you'll be uninterrupted, put some headphones in, and we're gonna start what is going to be like a guided meditation. I will invite you to, I will say, so the way I do this one is channeled. So part of it is part of the scripted circle casting that I use. And I say the same words again and again, like guardian of the north, keeper of earth. I invoke the elements of earth and spirits of earth. And then from there, I start channeling anything that wants to come in from that earth energy and deity we're calling there. When I'm done calling in that channeling energy there, I end that section by saying, bless us as we call your name, and I will say a deity's name like Hecate. I invite you to out loud say that deity's name with me. So if I say Hecate, you will say with me then 3 times after, Hecate, Hecate, Hecate. And this is just reiterating that you are allowing their energy to come in your field. If you completely fall asleep while we're doing it, the circle will still be cast around you. It's just if you're taking part in it, it's going to be more potent, more powerful, more in your energetic field since we're doing this at a distance. So I'm going to take a drink real quick and then we're going to start. All right, let's begin casting our circle. So I invite you wherever you are to close your eyes and take a deep breath. Just take a deep breath at your own pace. I'm not going to guide this breath. And then I just want you to kind of wiggle your body, shaking your arms, your legs, maybe circling your head. Tugging your shoulders down from your ears, making sure the arms, hands, legs are all uncrossed. And now allow your body to come to stillness. Your eyes are now closed. I want you to seal your lips and empty your body of your breath. So letting all the air out of your body. Squeezing your belly so that it expels out. Pause there at the bottom of this breath. And then very, very slowly begin to inhale through your nose. Allowing this breath to feel like you're dragging it or pulling it in through the nose, in through the throat, all the way deep into your belly. Allow the belly to expand, like so it becomes like a big pregnant belly with the inhale. Notice the breath all the way down to your fingertips by just bringing your awareness there. When you're full of breath, just pause here, full. Take in one more sip. One more sip. Now part your lips and audibly let go. Push all the air out again, squeezing all the stagnant energy out with the push of your belly. So the belly concaves in now instead of going out. Then seal your lips this time inhaling a little quicker through the nose, allowing your awareness to guide this breath to all areas of your body. Feel it moving to your elbows, your wrists, your fingertips, your knees, your hips, your toes. Take in as much air as you can, hold here at the top, and then notice how tight and tense you become, full of air, full of life force, full of potential. Now soften your shoulders away from your ears, soften your legs, soften your hips, part your lips, and audibly let go. Push all the air out again, squeezing the belly back in. This time, seal your lips. Take a fast inhale through the nose. Belly expands, chest expands. Soften your shoulders. Hold for 3, 2, 1. Open your mouth. Let go. Everything softens. Everything lets go. Your eyes are still closed. Maybe you begin to, with your eyes closed, cross your eyes. So almost like you're looking at your nose, but your eyes are closed. This awakens the third eye. Let your breath resettle back into a nice natural flow, rhythm. And you're just becoming very, very relaxed, finding yourself in complete darkness. On the longest night of the year. It's completely dark, only ruled by the stars in the sky above you. Silver threads of light that actually are interwoven into every human on this planet. So begin to see yourself in the darkness with these silver threads of light that are connected outside of you to every single human. They're so thin, it's like a web a spider would weave, that unless you really focus, you don't see it. And then you notice one thread or web is actually connected to your heart. You find yourself very at peace here in the darkness. There's no fear. There's no color. There's just these silver threads of light. As I call forth concentric circles of light to surround us now, across mountains and deserts, cities and oceans, across countries and continents, I cast these circles of light around each individual taking part in this sovereign circle casting. These circles of light will pulsate with different colors of light for each of us. So there's no right or wrong here. There's no judging the color for what it means here. Notice this color of light with curiosity. And within this sacred circle of light, I want you to begin to see come into form every version of yourself as a child, from 1 year old to around 18 or even 19 years old. It's like you are sitting in circle with all the versions, all the past ages of you. And you didn't even realize all of these people, all of these children were in this circle with you until you sat down in the center of the circle and let everything from the outside world go, noticing yourself at 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 years old, you stop and gaze into your own eyes. 6, 7. At 8 years old, you see your entire form. 9, 10. You notice your lips here. Are they smiling or are they frowning? 11, 12, 13. 13, you notice the power around this child. It's palpable. Can you see the color of light? 14, 15, 16. You notice yourself growing into your adult version of you. And as you look back at all those 16 versions of you that came before, you notice that there are certain years, ages of you that seem more distant. You can't quite see them. Just take note of what year that is and let it be there for now. 17, 18, 19. See yourself ready to be an adult, ready to carry with you all of those 19 versions of you. Some of those versions of you, it might have been the 16-year-old protecting the 8-year-old, maybe the 13-year-old protecting the 4-year-old, noticing how the behavior of each age you're looking back at was affected by the age prior. I want you to invite all these versions of yourself back into the center of your heart, where you say all of the hard things that ever happened are no longer happening to you anymore. You are welcome here in the center of my heart, because I know there is a genius and a creative genius, a light in the darkness that you represent in my life. You hold the key to my magic, and I am ready to integrate you in. So all those versions of you funnel right into the center of your heart to be a part of this circle casting. As I call forth the guardians of the watchtowers of the north, south, east, and west. Guardian of the north, keeper of earth, I invoke the spirits and the elements of earth to join us now. Keeper of the keys, keeper of the sacred flame, keeper of the underworld, keeper of the element of earth, she who guides us through the darkest tunnels, through the darkest nights, the shortest days, with her torch of light, because she is anchored, reminding us of the seed that we are meant to grow into, inviting the acceptance of the seed into the earth, into the underworlds where all the journeys begin. Seeing the seed deep within the earth as we meet this deity, this goddess, mother of witches, mother of witches, that holds us and cradles us within the underworld that has been demonized by so many. This underworld journey, we are held by this mothering force of the earth element, of the deities that are the underworld deities. They have been demonized because they are the feminine, they are the mother. They are keepers of the keys between the worlds that we exist within and weave ourselves in and out of. Bless us as we call your name. Hecate, 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 Hecate. Guardian of the northeast, keeper of the rising sun, the hope, the trust, and the faith, of the return of light. The deity that brings us to the sacred healing waters and washes us down of the stagnant old energies in our life that are in our bodies. These are like areas on the planet that we visit that we feel as lower level energies. Our body is a planet within itself, and different areas of the planet of our body as a mirror of the earth is holding stagnant energy just the same as the earth does from tragic events that took place and got stored in that part of the earth or that part of your body. This deity washes you clean if you accept this washing with the sacred waters that she waits by with her red-eared cow. Bless us as we call your name. Bridget, 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 Bridget. Guardian of the East, keeper of air, I invoke the spirit and the element of air to join us now. She of 10,000 spells, she of 10,000 names, shapeshifter of all shapeshifters, mother of the birthing sun. Witch of the sun, if there ever was one, who joins us in golden robes today. The temples of Egypt, temples of Hathor, temples of Isis, temples of many deities and gods. She stands before them in her golden robes, reminding us of the power within us. As the wind begins to blow, her golden gowns begin to rise in the air, reminding you that you too control the life force moving in and out of your body, which can and will release you from the binds of the trauma if you can find the nooks and crannies within your body like we do on the planet. And we go there with our healing waters and our healing breath and our healing wings, because we too can shapeshift like this deity. And we are not afraid to look at what's been hidden. Through the winds of change, she reminds us that transformation is a new beginning, a rebirth, and that sometimes it may feel like a tornado whipping through your life, lifting up everything that no longer serves you and smashing it, which invokes fear within you. But that is only your perception. Your breath can invite you into the peace of change as you use the wings that are inherently yours. As they expand in your energetic field, they can take you higher and invite you into new chapters of your life with grace and ease. Bless us as we call your name. Isis, 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 Isis. Guardian of the Southeast, keeper of sovereignty, keeper of the power of the feminine, keeper of the wisdom of the goddess, keeper of the power of our yes and no. She who shares the wisdom of the throat, of the voice, of the spells that you speak. When you use your voice intentionally, when you repeat mantras, this deity awakens within your throat. This part of you awakens and sings the songs of the Divine Mother of all life. and why, when you speak words with intention again and again, the manifestations come into play for better or worse. Because the songs you sing from the throat or your voice are invoking the Divine Mother. This deity will remind you of the power you have to command change, to choose different words, creating boundaries, to choose different actions that actually create boundaries. And you'll know she is present because as you are going through your day, you may find yourself humming an unfamiliar tune, or maybe it's a familiar tune. The humming is the vibrational nervous system recalibrating to the energy of Source being within you and awakened and accepted and honored. Bless us as we call your name. Rhiannon, 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 Rhiannon. Guardian of the South, keeper of fire, I invoke the element and the spirits of fire now. Queen of the Fae, she who knows love is the way, is inviting us into our righteous rage on this day. She is acknowledging the fatigue, the exhaustion from change, constant uprooting and burning down of the old is tiring, but she is reminding you that this is love. Love is the fire burning away the old and creating new pathways. She is inviting you to remember that taking your power back is a step of love, self-love, that you were never meant to endure other people's projections upon yourself. You were never meant to take the pain and the wounding with you unresolved moving forward. So she is here to help you burn away darkness. Bless us as we call your name. Anya, 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 Anya. Guardian of the Southwest, keeper of mystery, keeper of the wisdom, of the balancing of divine feminine and masculine within all humans. She who is coaxing the feminine to rise through the shadows, up, 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 as she coaxes the masculine to meet her at an equal point, not diminish the masculine or wipe it out, but to meet in this cohesive harmony within all humans. She meets us at the darkest corners of our life. She meets us at the underworld. She has been demonized like us witches through the eons, and is only now being celebrated once again for who she really is, just as the witches. We reclaim her name. We reclaim her archetype from all ages and all religions, for she was practicing no different than the witches. So she allows us to move through our religious conditioning, wiping away the old through fire and water. She meets you toe to toe with your darkness and clears the space of your womb and opens the throat chakra. Bless us as we call your name. Mary Magdalene, Mary Magdalene, Mary Magdalene, Mary Magdalene. Guardian of the West, keeper of the sacred waters, we invoke the spirit and the element of water, keeper of the cauldron, keeper of alchemy, keeper of the power of the magic that exists within us. awakening the human abilities and the supernatural human abilities that exist within us as witches by clearing away the old with the waters, with the storm of her sacred water. She's showing me that so often we turn and face the powerful rushing waters, like standing in a river and turning towards where the water is rushing at you, and you are trying to walk towards the rushing waters. When she says, turn your back to the waters that are flowing towards you and walk with the current forward. Do not change who you are. Do not change the seed that created you. Do not allow the energetics of your trauma to make you try to be something that you are not, just to fit in and conform on this planet. The rebels, the witches, those who are not willing to do it the same, are the healers and the change makers and the pattern breakers of this time. But this will consume your entire life, she reminds you now, that you cannot be the same as everyone else, that you must be all in, or you're not walking the path of alchemy your soul meant for you to walk. The water will take you here with compassion. The water will take you here with love. The water will take you here with grace. And the water will also come in as a storm to wash away all that no longer serves you, so that you may see clearly once again who you really are. Bless us as we call your name, Caradwin, 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 Caradwin. Guardian of the Northwest, weaver of our sacred circle, queen of witches, queen of the oppressed, she who empowers the people, she who gives the spells, the curses, the hexes, all of it, the boundaries, the borders, the expansion, she who meets us at the moon and the stars and awakens the power within us. Weave this sacred circle sealed and bless us as we call your name. Aradia, 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 Aradia. Calling forth the presence of our loving Earth Mother, she who shows us unconditional love, the mirror of our physical body, nurturing us, holding space for us for this school of life that we have chosen to live in a human form. She reminds us there is a gift of living in the human form, that all too often we are saying this is our last life, when in no way, shape, or form is this your last life. This is your first life, that you are taking your power back, and from the soul's aspect, you will wish and hope again that you can return from soul form into a human form, where you can feel the fire and command the fire and live in a human vessel that is experiencing the fire within you and without, the water within you and without. It is a blessing to be a human, but it is a curse to be a human when you are seeing it from the aspect of the ego. When you see it from the soul's vantage point, it is a blessing where you are never, ever left alone. You are unconditionally loved and held by our Earth Mother. Calling in the ancestors that walked the earth before each of us, for each individual casting the circle, honoring the indigenous feet that touch the earth where we live, and honoring them for the prayers and the blessings that lay laid down on the earth, and inviting them into our circle if they walked with us in a good way, inviting the ancestors from each person's individual bloodline that walk with them in a good way, inviting in the Fae, the elementals, and the gnomes as protectors of our earth and our physical body and keeping us in integrity and authenticity. We now invite in and call forth the presence of our loving star brothers and sisters that we invited in at the beginning of our sacred circle casting, where our child self came and joined us, surrounding us in this sacred circle, reminding us that we are all aspects and ages of ourself as much as we are the seed that fell from the stars into these human bodies that we call a soul. We invite you to witness, watch over, and hold space as we lift this circle up to the 7th and 8th plane of consciousness and invoke our I Am presence at heart center, bringing your hands to your heart. We invoke the I Am presence of each person taking part in this sacred circle casting today. We invite all aspects of self to come forward from the recesses of your heart, mind, body, and spirit. Arriving here at center, you are home. You're no longer feeling exhausted and tired from the season. You are feeling invigorated, energized by the energy of that which we have cast and invoked within our energetic field. All aspects of ourselves that exist within the deities that we have cast around this sacred circle are aspects of ourself that will rise with us. And as we sit in the sacred space of center, connected to the earth, to these deities, directions, elements, and the star brothers and sisters and home of the seed of our soul, we lift this circle up and command it be lifted up, 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 to the 7th and 8th plane of consciousness, where divine knowing, miracles, weaving, alchemy, mystery, love, sovereignty, angelic, life force, healing waters of hope and courage, and the underworld of the earth that we have chosen to exist upon. The miracles of all of these places, we are lifted up to the wisdom of each of them. And we ask that we remain in this place of consciousness until each of us lies our head down to sleep tonight, when the circle will be opened but never broken, as we integrate the wisdom from the 7th and 8th plane of consciousness into our physical bodies, so that we may understand and live our full purpose to our ability. And as we do so, we seal this sacred circle. As above, so below, as within, so without. It is done, it is done, it is done, and so it is. Blessed be. Big breath in. Big breath in again and out. Big breath in. As you exhale out, wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, and gently blink your eyes back open, coming back into this space, maybe finding your phone. Whew. Noticing how you might feel different right now than when we began casting that circle. I invite you to type in the chat the color of the circle you've seen. Dawn says that was amazing. Blessed be. I'm glad you enjoyed it so much. Blessed be Priscilla and Chef Danny. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Jessica. Dawn saw purple. Someone saw white. Blessed be Haley. Oh my gosh, chat's moving so quick. I can't read them all. Thank you all for being here. A golden circle. Gold dust, I love it. Did you guys see any versions of yourself that were disappearing or louder or brighter, maybe showing you something about yourself? Thank you. Hi, Wildflower. You are seeing blue. Blessed be. Thank you. Hi, Laura Lynn. I'm glad this is what you needed. Now, all of you. Hi, Sarah. You saw your 7-year-old self was very dim. So go there and be with that 7-year-old within you. That just means she needs you to be the parent she never had. And you need to remind her that the trauma she experienced is not still happening, that it stopped, and that you are there to take care of her and love her. Different shades of blue. Thank you for watching. So forget. Sending you a hug. Are you going to repost I missed from the beginning? Yes, Wildflower. I always repost these on, I'm not allowed to say the word because I think they ping me, but it's with a Y and a T, that platform. I repost all of the replays, so they're all on there. A purple to iridescent, that's beautiful. Green with a little yellow. Thank you guys for being here and staying on while we cast that circle. It's a long meditation, but you're gonna continue feeling so good all afternoon. And really, ultimately, everyone that was here, you saw I had a flash of orange. Ooh, creation. I believe more blessings. I saw bright white lights, indigo. Oh, I love that. That sounds beautiful, like the night sky. That just by staying here and being part of this circle casting, you were part of a winter solstice ceremony. You took time, when someone was saying earlier, what does it mean to rest? You took the time on a live to remain here for 20 minutes or so, or 30, however long it took me to cast that circle. You remained present. You gave yourself time. That's what it means to slow down. You stopped scrolling and you took part in something that invoked your higher self to step forward. So thank you all for being here and being on this journey of healing. Tonight I'm meeting with my coven through Zoom. We're going to be working on our Yule log. So I have a link in my bio. I'm just going to say it because I'm waving here. I'm not supposed to say that word, but all of my classes are there. Go to start a class. This is the time. Everything that you put out there right now for yourself, everything that you are claiming right now is what you're going to run with into the next year. At the end of January, the fire horse is going to take all the wishes and dreams, all the seeds that you were able to plant right now, and you're going to run with them. But you can't plant these seeds, you can't invoke these things until you've healed what came before. So decide to make some choices, to start doing things different, to release the hardest shadows that are ready to be released. Thank you for being here, Vegan Starseed. Thank you all. Please go check out my videos, check out my offerings. I have a witch school. We still have spaces for Practical Magic Retreat with payment plans. I would love to see you there as part of our coven in next year at Samhain. So payment plans are still available at a pretty low monthly price because we still have like 10 months till that retreat. So please don't pray for us. Your prayers are spells, and we don't want your spells on us. So we cast out everything that you are casting our way. So have a blessed winter solstice. I'm going to end the live. If you haven't followed me, please go follow me. I'm here every Sunday casting a circle. I'm going to do everything I can to make it to the Samhain retreat. Sarah, I would love that. It was such a blessing to have your sweet spirit the year that we went that you went last time. And I'm so glad to see you here in the live. But all of you, take great care of your heart and working with the shadow today. My YouTube is the same as my handle on here. mystic harmony, mystic witch harmony. So thank you, Shelley. Blessed be. I'll see you next Sunday.